Welcome to the Wellness Amazon podcast. This is a podcast for highly sensitive people, people that have high intuition and are just in tune with themselves and the outer world. Come and listen to multiple different high spectrum subjects and just peek behind the curtain. But I warn you, once you peek behind the curtain, you can never go back. Have fun. Enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome to the Wellness Amazon podcast and our second try this time with Jon Lyanne from Sanity Jiu Jitsu, because they are extremely patient and are here again because the last time we lost the recording. So Jon and Lyanne are the owners and instructors at Sanity Jiu Jitsu in Winter Garden here in Florida, really close to Orlando. Lyanne is a first degree black belt and a massage therapist with 15 years of experience in the grappling and martial arts realm, and Jon is a second degree black belt with 17 years of grappling experience, and he is a veteran of the Marines. Thank you for your service. Your mission is to foster the dedication and make everyone feel welcome, treat each student with respect, and empower their members and help members reach their goals. And I can vouch for that because we've had part of the family train with you and still train with you today. So welcome to the podcast. In the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world and the martial arts world, what are your touch points with HSPs or being an HSP yourself?
So, yes, I'm definitely one of those people that is highly sensitive when it comes to just the environment around me. So I am diagnosed ADHD. So I'm constantly, my brain is constantly picking up on every single thing around me. But something like jujitsu can be exposure therapy for something like that. So when you're on the mat, there's obviously a lot of people. Sometimes there's a lot of noise with people slapping the mat as they fall, the music. We do have bright mats. That's also something that when we first opened, I didn't think was going to be an issue, but sometimes it does bother me because sometimes it's a lot, especially at night. So it is sort of exposure therapy for me in that way, because I don't want to just remove myself from all of these things. I have to expose myself so that I can get used to these things. But as far as the jiu-jitsu craft itself, it has helped me tremendously over the years. So with having ADHD, I tend to hyper focus a lot on things. And when I do that with jiu-jitsu, it prevents me from having that anxiety that you get from thinking about the past and also thinking about the future. It puts me in that present state. So whenever I'm doing jiu-jitsu, I'm only focused on what's in front of me. If someone is putting their neck around me, or their arm around my neck, that's the only thing that I'm focused on in that moment. So it reduces the anxieties that I get from being highly sensitive, right? So sometimes if I'm just standing there on the mat and I hear all these noises around me, I'm like, oh no, I'm freaking out. My brain is going like this, a million miles an hour. But when I'm sparring with someone, when I'm actually doing jiu-jitsu, my brain does not pick up on any of those things. Sometimes it does. But I tend to focus on that person that's putting their arm around my neck. And then I start to think in my head, I'm like, how do I get out of this? Let me put my hand here. Let me put my foot over here. Let me posture myself up. Okay, now I'm out. And so my brain never had the opportunity to pick up on anything else. So I feel like that's a huge thing when it comes to jiu-jitsu and helping highly sensitive people. It's yes, it can be overwhelming when you walk through the door with all the chaos around you, with kids running around and lots of people on the mat, the music, the bright mats, all of that, the anxieties of doing a combative sport. But when you're actually in the moment, and that's why I like competing too, because when you compete, you're in the middle and it's like you're training, but on steroids. You're in the middle, you're in the center, it's you and your opponent, and you have to focus. You have no choice but to focus. Otherwise you lose, right? It's either you really focus on what's in front of you, or you lose the match. So I think that's how jujitsu helps highly sensitive people. I think that's like the main thing right there.
Yeah. I don't personally consider myself a highly sensitive person. I have a fairly robust social battery. But what I do find, and one of the things that I've had to change over the course of like jujitsu for me, especially from a teaching perspective, is recognizing that not everybody has the same social battery, and not everybody will take jujitsu or criticism or negativity or anything like that the same way. So if I have a student that I think is very sensitive to whatever it is, losing or failing to understand something, I need to make sure I put in some blocks in place and some like robust sort of like positive reinforcement, so they don't find themselves constantly being like, oh, I suck. I got taken down and I got submitted a bunch of times. Because from my perspective, a vast majority of the times, people are not taking into account the positive things they did. They take all the negative stuff, all the takedowns that they got taken down, they got submitted, and then I'll look over as an instructor, and oftentimes I'm like, well, I feel like you're doing actually pretty good. I watched you, pass this person's guard, and I watched you get on this person's back. And well, what about those things? Yeah, but that person's new, or yeah, that, but what, yeah, I guess. But it's making sure that you're reinforcing positivity and like sort of like stamping out the negativity and just making sure people understand it's all part of the process. That's something for when we get highly sensitive people, or when I see somebody who really is very, very, susceptible to being letting that sort of crumble in on top of them. I got to make sure that we put some buttresses in and make sure they don't get collapsed on essentially, and quit jujitsu as a result.
Uh, that's a great reminder, because I think when we talk about highly sensitive people, and I include myself in that pool, I also forget that that is a part of that too. Because usually you go to like stimuli and you're overwhelmed and you need social, like you said, social battery, but we forget the part about, yeah, you're also more sensitive to critique and constructive criticism and learning and feedback, because usually HSPs tend to be dwelling a little bit more in that negativity. Mm-hmm.
I, I
Yeah.
I have to remind myself sometimes, like I like to be a little bit harder on the kids than the adults. You would almost think it would be the opposite, but when the kids, not that they mess up, but when they do something wrong, and I make them do push-ups or jumping jacks, and they'll do the push-ups or jumping jacks really poorly. Now they know they're doing it poorly, and I know they're doing it poorly, and so I make sure I tell them, those are terrible. Keep doing them until they're correct, and then we can kind of move on. Because part of that like subtext is, I want you to understand that you're going to be critiqued in life, and I don't want you to just phone it in. I don't want you to get away with it. I don't want you to get used to phoning it in and being able to get away with it because of whatever reason. Because if you get to that point, all it's going to do is get worse and worse and worse as an adult, and then we're going to have so much more work to do, as far as making sure you can take criticism, even if it's constructive. Because at the end of the day, jujitsu is almost nothing but criticism. Whether it's a coach telling you to do something differently, or whether it's your training partner choking you and being like, if you don't make a change here, you're going to get choked. So that's jujitsu in a nutshell, is almost criticism.
Yeah.
That goes along with what we were talking about earlier with the exposure therapy. So this is basically what you're doing when you do jiu-jitsu. It's a lot of exposure. I know when I first started jiu-jitsu, the criticism part was, not the easiest thing for me, but like now 15 years in, I'm like, okay, whatever. My armbar wasn't good. I know, we'll correct that. Like, not a big deal. And, we just keep moving forward. So, again, that's a good perk of doing jiu-jitsu as a highly sensitive person. You get to work on yourself constantly, 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 constantly. Yeah. It never ends.
Yeah. And like you said, it's also, that exposure therapy too, that you're not ever the master. It doesn't matter. You could be a whatever. I don't know how many degrees there are in a black belt, but there's always going to be a new situation where you learn.
You're never going to master jiu-jitsu. You'll never have it mastered, even after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it sounds like, Lyanne, when you're describing it, it pulls you out of your head and into your body, because even though you might be overstimulated by a couple of things, but in the moment when you're rolling with someone, you can't focus on those things anymore and they become less important.
Oh yeah, 100%. And when I'm doing jujitsu, that's why like I can't go a few days without training for myself. Like I can go a couple days with like being on the mat and being more of like the coach, but like on that third day, I'm like, okay, today I have to roll for myself because I can feel the energy's not good. The energy's not good. So as soon as I go in there and I do a couple of rounds where I'm being challenged, you're right. It takes me completely out of my head because most of the time, as a highly sensitive person, I'm up here all the time, constantly scanning the room, like, oh, that noise over there, the bright mats, all of that. But when I'm rolling, it's like I'm just focused on that hand that's touching me on my collar. I'm like, how am I going to get rid of that? Okay, grab it, push it up. Okay, now I need to take my knee over here. And then not only that, but after you've been training for a while, you start to get into this flow, right? So your body memorizes all of these patterns of jiu-jitsu and you don't even have to think at all. Your body just does what it's supposed to do and your mind is quiet. It's all your body that just goes. And then it's the best thing ever. After I have rolls like that, I'm like, okay, I can go to bed now. I can go to bed very peacefully and happily.
There is a saying in jiu-jitsu, and I didn't coin this in any way. It's leave your problems at the door. And it's a really good saying. You sometimes hear people say, leave your ego at the door. And that's a saying too, for sure. But I kind of, just the other day, we were doing some comp training and I could tell everybody was kind of having a rough go of it. Just because it's rough, it's hard. I make comp training really difficult. It's going to be hard rounds. You're going to get tired. It doesn't matter how good your cardio is. I'm going to make you tired. It doesn't matter how good your jiu-jitsu is. At some point, it's going to fall apart. But we just want to focus as much as we can on the task at hand. So I kind of noticed there was like one or two people you could tell their mind was elsewhere, and as a result, they were sort of failing and doing well in comp training. And I sort of sat everybody down. And I said, listen, the idea is, at least metaphorically, that you leave your problems at the door. But for some of you, you're hoisting in this Santa Claus-sized garbage bag of problems, and you're metaphorically spilling them all over the mat. And even though you're being crushed, you're looking around the mat and seeing all of your problems right next to you. And I was like, if you're doing that, that's why you're getting crushed. I was like, you have got to focus on the person that is in front of you. I know it doesn't, those bills will be waiting for you after you get off the mat. That's true. That interview, that whatever you have, that meeting that you have, whatever it is, it's waiting for you. But for right now, you're here. Just be here. Just be here for right now. And promise you, it will get so much better. Not only will your jiu-jitsu improve, but your mental stability will improve, just shutting off that sort of like, I have so many problems out there, but they're out there for just a moment. I'm in here for a moment. You know, like this is your safe space, for lack of a better term. And I do try to reinforce that as much as I can. And so does Lyanne.
Yeah, it's almost a meditative state in that where it's, because you can't do anything about it right now this second, you know?
Exactly, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what Lyanne is describing, when your body just flows and your mind is quiet, to me that sounds like unicorn land, nirvana. You have finally.
And I mean, it doesn't happen for very long and it doesn't happen every single roll, but there are some rolls that I have where I was like, where was I? I think I was in a different dimension right there. I don't know exactly what was happening, but that was nice.
A lot of that goes with too, like as far as finding like a good partner too, because obviously jiu-jitsu, you're independently trying to grow yourself, but there are times where you get paired up with somebody and you just, their energy and your energy just mix together really, really well. And that's usually where you find that flow state. Like, even though you're having success, you're having some failure too, but it's a challenging failure and it's a fun failure. In the same way that if you played, a video game, or if you were, playing a board game or something like that, you want it to be challenging enough to where it's fun to win, but you also want to be pushed on a little bit as far as the challenge goes. And when you roll with somebody like that, or if you spar with somebody like that, or do jiu-jitsu with somebody like that, oftentimes you're you're almost sad when the timer finally rings, even though you might be tired or even though you might be pushed almost to the limit. When the timer rings, you'll sometimes hear somebody who had a really good roll be like, oh. And even though there's like 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes of cardio exhaustion, be like, every once in a while the timer will ring, I'll be like, oh, that felt so quick. Oh, that felt so quick. You want to keep going? You want to go one more? Yeah. Sometimes if I have a really good roll with somebody, I'll be like, go get another roll and then grab me again. As an instructor, I don't get to do that as much as I used to when I was a student. When I was a student, if I had somebody I really liked to roll with and it was just like good back and forth, we're both having successes and failures and just good energy, I would try to be like, grab me again in 2 more rolls so we can see if we can reconstruct that. It is hard. It's like having water in your hand. The tighter you try to clench onto it, the more it disappears. But sometimes you can find it.
Yeah, and that's so important for anyone who is in tune or highly sensitive or whatnot, because energy is the first one. You receive that information before you see the rest of that person. So how do you, when you say you're rolling with someone, there's a good energy, how long does it usually take you to know it's a match?
Good question.
I would say within the first minute, because
Yeah.
you can, so let's say I try to do something, they'll counter it right away, and then I'll have another counter, and they'll bring in something else, and it's a constant movement, right? So you'll know within the first minute. Sometimes you'll roll with people and you'll put them in a position and they won't move, or they'll hold on to you for dear life like this and clench themselves up. And you're just like, okay, well, nothing, we're not doing anything here. Like, do something, stand up, try to go to the side, pass my guard, do something. That way I can give you something else, right? It's always like a give and take, a back and forth situation. So I would say within the first minute.
Yeah, I think that that's probably pretty accurate. You'll find the good vibrations, like the good energy, within a minute, maybe a hair more. You'll find the negative energy within the first 15 seconds, maybe. Like if somebody has, let's say we get a visitor. Lyanne and I are very lucky right now. Our academy has really good energy, good vibes. Everything's good right now. But you will have, and this is not an uncommon thing in jiu-jitsu, you can have people join your gym. You can have people come into your gym and they can, selfish people can come in, learn jujitsu. It's possible. So every once in a while, somebody will visit or I'll roll with somebody and you can feel within the first 15 seconds sort of their negative intentions. Maybe the only thing they're really interested in is like rolling with the black belt and trying to beat me, right? Instead of like, we're both in this together, right? I'm trying to learn something. You're trying to learn something. It doesn't matter whether you're a white belt and I'm a black belt, or you can be a black belt too. At the end of the day, we're both just trying to learn something about ourselves and something about each other. But, people can come in of all shapes and sizes and whatever. And they can be like, I'm going to roll as hard as I can with this black belt. And I'm going to try to submit it. I'm going to try to hurt it maybe. You can feel that very quickly. Now, the nice thing about jiu-jitsu is self-contained within it's like what it is the ability for me to defend myself and not let you do that, which is really nice. But within 15 seconds or 10 to 15 seconds, once I sort of tangle with somebody, once we sort of like get that initial contact, I can feel that negative energy very quickly. And depending on what happens is sort of like how that role will be dictated and stuff. Sometimes people calm down. Sometimes people escalate, as you can imagine. The vast majority of rolls, though, you're going to feel that good positive energy at about 60 seconds. And then once you feel that good positive energy, a lot of times it will build. And by the time, like I said, by the time that 6 minute, 7 minute timer goes off, you're at this fever pitch of good energy. And it feels almost like somebody took something away from you when that timer rings and you have to stop. I mean, you don't have to stop, but it's like, oh, good moves, right? Great job, man. Oh, that was such a good sweep. Yeah, good sweep. Great takedown, and there's just this positivity back and forth as opposed to, and again, you can have this situation where, somebody's like gets upset, Lyanne submits somebody and instead of being like, oh, good armbar, they just get up in a huff or they slap the mat hard because they're upset or whatever. And those things do exist for sure. But jiu-jitsu is a great sort of filter for getting those people to understand that that's not what it's about, right? It's a self-containing sort of filter, which is really nice too. So.
I have a friend who does Kung Fu, and there's a word for the wife of the master. I forgot. I don't remember what it is. But when she's in the gym, she will come to you and say, "Your energy is off. Go sit down, breathe. You're not going on the mat." She is just this really. She can feel it when you come in, and she is just right in your face. Go sit down. Energy is off. You need to breathe.
Someone's having a hard time today. Like
That's interesting though. She makes him sit down because I think my thing would be go get on the mats and roll. I think I think I'd have the opposite sort of attitude. I could see you doing both though, but I think I'd be like, you have a bad day? Yeah, blah 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 happened. I'll go grab so and so and roll. You feel a lot better. You know, like
Yeah.
those are drugs.
Do 3 burpees. You will not think about your bad day anymore.
You know, they're gonna stop thinking about your bad day.
That's hilarious.
How is this with people that come in? And I mean, I don't know how honest people are right away when they come to you. There's probably both people that are trying to not tell you and people that are really upfront with it. But when people have social anxiety and they go to jiu-jitsu, I mean, it's a very close contact, constantly touching someone. How do you approach that with people that they want to do this sport, but that's kind of their hurdle?
I would say that because that comes in so many forms, I kind of take it case by case basis. For example, we had a student, he's still our student for sure. He's kind of gotten past this, but he went through this phase where he was not good at, luckily he told me what was going on. He's like, I love jujitsu, but I get in my car to come here. My heart starts pumping and I start to have all these negative feelings, these negative thoughts. And he's like, it's almost like I don't want to come. Once I get in here, once I step on the mat, I feel better. And I always leave a smile on my face. He's like, what's going on? And I just kind of talked to him about sort of the pressures of performance anxiety. He was at the point in his jujitsu where he was sort of nearing the next level. People were giving him a hard time, but he was also excelling. And so he's taking in all this information. He's taking in all this energy. And as a result of doing all those things, he finds himself sort of wanting to perform at a certain level because maybe he knows that the next belt is coming, the next stripe. And if he feels like he doesn't do that, if he doesn't perform at the level that he expects or that he thinks we expect, then somehow he will be demoted or he'll be made fun of or something. And just reassuring him that this is such a long journey and that not every day can be perfect. And the potholes of your journey, like you're going to hit a pothole. You're going to have a bad day. And it's okay to have bad days. Like that's part of it. But just recognizing that at the end of the day, right, you rolled, you had some success, you had failures, you walked out here with a smile on your face. Like every time you get in your car and you have that feeling, remind yourself that you're going to feel better afterwards. And then eventually, you know, he did get promoted. And I feel like he was like, yeah, I don't feel that anymore. I love coming here. I try to get here as much as I can. And it's like, okay, so I kind of hit the nail on the head. It was performance anxiety. You were holding yourself to this invisible standard that was just in your brain. And that's why. But it also comes in the form that I've had people tell me like, you know, like just rolling with somebody gives me intense anxiety. And I find it very hard to approach people to roll, approach people to spar. And so sometimes I'll sort of take the wheel or Lyanne will take the wheel and be like, that's no problem. I'll take that anxiety off of your hands and I'll just assign you people to roll until you feel comfortable. Because after you've rolled with somebody 5 times, 10 times, 20 times, the anxiety of asking them to roll really disappears. Be like, well, that's just Lyanne. Yeah, I've rolled with her 20 times. Hey, Lyanne, can we roll together? And now I don't have to do it anymore. Or Lyanne is asking that person to roll and they're not. I've now as that third party have sort of disappeared and now just making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I just take it a case by case basis. If I really hope, and I try to tell, or at least we try to tell our students, like open line of communication. Come up and talk to me about what's going on. I'm more than happy to help. If it's something I can help with, anxiety on the mat, some sort of problem that you're having that can be facilitated by us giving advice or me showing you something or whatever, I'm more than happy to do that. And if I can't help, then I'll just give my advice. And if I can't give my advice, I'll just be an open ear.
So you start off like comfortable with one person, roll with them, and then maybe the next week or a couple weeks after, maybe you start rolling with that second person, and those are your 2 people that you. Sometimes it's a slow process, right? You don't roll with 7 new people all in one day. Start with 1, get comfortable with 1, then 2, then 3, and then eventually you become friends with people. You get more comfortable. that's how it was when I started jiu-jitsu. I had really bad social anxiety at that point in my life. I still do sometimes, but not as bad as when I first started jiu-jitsu. I would get comfortable with a couple people, and then I wanted to roll more, so then I would add another person. And another thing that I like to do, and I still do this, like sometimes I just don't like to talk. That's just how I am. Sometimes I'm just like, the energy, like sometimes I'm low energy and I'm like, I don't want to talk today. So I'll point at someone and I'll go like this. And I feel like that would help if you had social anxiety, because you wouldn't have to go up to someone and be like, and have a conversation, right? It's more like, and I've told some people, like, because I have a couple people like in the girls class that have social anxiety, and I'm like, try it. I think it works great.
It's those little things. I will also say academy culture is big too. So one of the things we try to facilitate. Great example is DJ. DJ is a great example of this. We have the 6:30 a.m. class. Anytime I get somebody at a new 6:30 a.m. class, DJ always grabs that person. So like when I show a technique, it's like, okay, guys, partner up and go through the technique. DJ rushes over to the new person. Hey, buddy, come on. I'm more than happy to help you. I remember my first day on the mat. Here's how we do this, right? You're gonna do it on me first. You know, good. Move your hand here, and like that's not just DJ, but he's a great example. But that helps out a ton, because if you're having social anxiety and you're in one of those academies that's like kill or be killed, or hey, you're the new guy, nobody cares about you. When I'm like, okay, guys, ready, partner up and drill the move, 1, 2, 3, clap, and then you're just standing there awkwardly, you're gonna immediately be like, this is terrible. I never want to feel this again. Nobody's helping me. I don't know what to do. I don't, and like eventually somebody like maybe reluctantly grabs you because you're the odd person out, or you end up with another new person who doesn't know what they're doing, and you both feel super lost. So having a gym culture of somebody who's like, I remember what it's like to be that new person, it's already intimidating. Even if you have good gym culture, even if you are happy to be here or whatever, it's still, there's this intimidation factor of everybody in here can beat me up, and I'm about to learn how to try to beat people up while also getting beat up. Like that's intimidating no matter how you slice it. So having good gym culture helps out a lot. Having those guys, like it doesn't matter, DJ, Danny, and all these other guys, all these blue belts that I have now, more than happy to help and pitch in, and hopefully that pyramid will kind of continue to grow. Eventually I have the purple belts helping the blue belts, and so on.
You also have like icebreakers that you do during mostly the evening classes, because the evening classes are bigger. So that game where you run around.
Oh yeah, that always helps out. So if I feel like, if I feel like, we just call it the numbers game. If I feel like the energy in the room is off, so if I step on the mat, maybe I'm running a bit behind. It could have been a really rough kids class for some reason, just like, and those happen. The kids, for whatever reason, it's a full moon and the kids' energy is just really like a little bit off. It's almost more therapeutic for me. What I'll do is let's say I have a class of 20 people. I'll get everybody in a big circle. We'll just start walking in a circle. And then at some point I'm going to say groups of 5, and everybody has to try to get in a group of 5 people before I count down from 5 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If they're successful, good. And if they're unsuccessful, they got to do 5 jumping jacks. So it's not that big of a deal. If you don't make it, everybody can do 5 jumping jacks. But you'd be surprised how competitive it gets, but in a good way. Like lots of smiles, like especially if I call out a big number. Like let's say again, we have 21 people. So no matter what I call out, for the most part, somebody's going to be stuck on that. So we'll be circling. We're doing now we're running instead. And I'm like, okay, groups of 8. And then you just see these bodies all scrambling. No, come over here, all this stuff. And that's just like a little trick to get everybody in the mood to sort of move around, and also just like change the energy in the room. What are we doing? We're all adults here, and we're playing a game. We're playing the same game I play with the kids, right? We're playing the numbers game. So yeah, that's a great example of if you're having bad energy in the room, don't be afraid to change the energy. Don't be afraid to do something just to get everybody smiling. That really doesn't have anything to do with jiu-jitsu. The numbers game doesn't necessarily help with anything in jiu-jitsu, but it does put a smile on everybody's face. So
another thing is the WhatsApp group that we have as well. So I think that helps people that have social anxiety, because if we add them to the WhatsApp group, people will post memes and stuff on there, and you get to see people's names, and you're like, oh, that's the guy that I saw on the mat the other day. And maybe you'll strike up a conversation with that person outside of the group chat. You'll talk about something that you may have in common, and then you come into the academy, and then you're more comfortable talking to them in person. So that could be something that could be useful with social anxiety.
Yeah. All sounds like team building exercises. And I feel like for a new person, also, when the first impression that you imprint on your brain with that is laughing or smiling or, this is a silly game, it's going to make it a lot lighter instead of that intimidating, gloomy, doomy,
Yes.
what
Right.
am I doing here? Yeah. Okay, super awkward question. What if someone, and I'm asking this because I have asked around and I have had the same experience as an HSP, when the gi and the texture of the gi that you're wearing is just irking you? Because I know a lot of HSPs, they cannot have tags in their clothes. They are very particular about what they wear, and the gi is a very thick, woven, bit rough material, and then you start sweating, and it just comes together. What are your tricks?
Well, I'm the opposite, but as far as the gi, you can wear rash guards underneath, which I think could be helpful because it's a barrier in between your skin and the rough uniform. Um, I personally think that the gi is like a little blanket. I don't enjoy no gi as much because it's the skin on skin. So your skin is either sweaty with another person's sweaty skin, or your skin is dry with the other person's dry skin, and it's like, the burn.
Yeah.
So I prefer having the gi on. I like that barrier. It's like a little blanket for me, but if the gi bothers you, there are different types of uniforms. Like some of them are more rough and harder than others. You can always try one that's a little bit softer. And the more you wash your uniform as well, it gets softer and softer. But I would say the rash guard could probably be a good option for someone that's really sensitive in the uniform. And then you could also start training no gi first and get used to that, and then eventually start working in the gi.
Yeah. I try to combat this now. Anytime somebody's going to come in, and I probably do it more with kids than I do with the adults. I'll just say, wear comfortable clothes that you don't mind sweating in, athletic clothing, and just make sure they don't have any hard snaps or buckles or pockets. And then presumably somebody will bring in a shirt that they're comfortable in and a pair of shorts, and now we're off to the races. If we're going to do a uniform class, and hopefully we'll find that out. It's like, I think that there are little components that we can do. Like Lyanne already just kind of said it right. It's like the loaner gis we have, those are just, they're loaned out to lots of people. They're stuck on a rack for a couple of days or a couple of weeks at a time. So, they do get kind of rough. But what I would say, if I could get somebody to like be like, I want to do this, but this is kind of an issue, I'd be like, I bet if you take a uniform that you buy, you go home and wash it with your fabric softener and your detergent, and you do your process, that it'll feel less alien on your skin, along with doing either the rash guard or the spats or both underneath the gi. I feel like you would find this happy medium, and then eventually you would become comfortable in it. And it might be one of those things where it's like, oh, now I prefer the gi because it's a barrier between me and that other person, just like she said, the skin on skin sort of contact. So that would be my solution with that. And again, at the end of the day, it's like, if it's one of those things that you cannot overcome, it's just too much, then it may be one of those deals where it's like, well, if you can't train no-gi, if the sensitivity of touch is too much, then unfortunately, like, that's a big component of jiu-jitsu, and it would just be one of those kind of like almost like deal breakers, unfortunately. But you want to be honest about it as much as you could. Be like, there's no way to do jiu-jitsu and not have contact with somebody. It's not possible. So it's like, that is a component. And if it's so overwhelming that somebody's going to touch you or something like that, then it may require more time. You may need something in between starting jiu-jitsu and where you're at now to sort of get you there.
I think the nice thing about your academy is too, you offer all of these specialty things that you just mentioned. You have a no gi class, you have gi classes, you have women's only, which I know I always say there's HSP men and they are out there, but it's a lot of times it's just a higher percentage in the HSP world. And I think, like what Lyanne said, when you get to a group of, it's just girls, getting yourself back in there. And I think that's great that you honor that, because honestly, when I first met you, and that was my first touch point with Jiu-Jitsu Academy, I thought that's normal until I looked around at other academies and realized nobody here offers this at all. Nobody offers a women-only class.
We had the perspective too. I'm going to let you talk on this, but one of the things from the very beginning, because at the old academy we were at, when we were both instructors, the academy split the mat down the middle. It wasn't a huge academy either. And so the girls would be on one side of the mat, and the judo class, or on another day, a kids class would be on the other side. And as the judo class or the kids class grew, you saw the women's class either stagnate completely or start to lose numbers. And so when we moved down here, Lyanne made a point to be like, when we do women's class, we're not going to share the mat. It's going to be women only. Like, obviously, I'm in the room, right? I'm here, whatever. I'm sitting over on the chairs doing emails or whatever. But as far as on the mats, like, literally, it's only the girls. They play their music. They have their moment. It's a small class. It's far more like a personal experience. And we plan to keep it like that. We don't plan to ever, like, separate the mat down the middle and try to do both, because I think it is really important that the girls have their space. It's already a very male-dominated sport. So there's no reason we should make it any harder than it already is, or any more intimidating than it already is.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Jiu-jitsu is very intimidating. So a female that comes in to try a class that maybe has been abused by a man in their past, it's gonna be even more of a hurdle to get them to come in and stay if they're trying a class that is co-ed with men in the class as well, right? So if we have that option of, it's going to be only girls, some guys will probably be sitting on the couch waiting for the next class. That's fine. But, it's all girls on the mat. You don't have to go over that hurdle of like triggering anything or, being intimidated. That's what our goal was with having our women's classes. So like you said, we intend on keeping it that way. I don't see us splitting the mats in the future. Now, I did get a comment the other day as far as like, why can't we have a men's only class?
Always.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, as far as the women, women are usually attacked on the street. They're usually abused, not all the time, by a man, right? So that's why we have a women's only class. Now, it's not to say that a man isn't going to get abused by a woman. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's more intimidating for a woman to be around a man if they got abused by a man. And so that's why we try to keep it women's only. Now, when the guys are on the mat and girls are also on the mat, you don't have to roll with the girls. Like, everyone can always say no. No, 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 no. But as far as like a man being triggered by a woman being in the room, I think that would be less likely than a woman being intimidated by a man in the room. So that's why we do it like that.
Yeah. And also just like, for a lot of moms that are interested in getting their daughter who may be potentially going off to college soon and maybe away from the house. And it's like, in the culture and times that we live in, it's not a bad idea to know how to take care of yourself. They feel far more comfortable looking at our schedule and being like, oh, you have a women's only class. Like, yep. And it's taught by a woman. And it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, okay, my daughter can learn self-defense in a small group of women and be taught by a female. What a good example to be set, and what a good sort of like, I don't have to worry about anything, because let's be honest, jiu-jitsu does have situations where if you're just looking at it and be like, that looks really provocative. Like, we're doing things like mount and taking people's backs. And if you look over and your 15 or 16-year-old daughter has a, sweaty dude on top of her, you might feel really sensitive about that. Now, us in the know, we know that that's just part of the game. And that's one of those things that is like, usually it's like not what it looks like. But if we can take that away as far as your worry, at least initially when your daughter or whatever starts, all the better, right? Now you feel more comfortable. That's great for us. And usually the girls who come in are like, okay, I'm going to do the girls class until I feel good enough to do both classes, do the intergender class.
Right. So the women's class is more of a gateway into the other classes, because I don't want the females to only train with females. I want them to eventually get to a point where they're also training with the men, because that is the point, right? Like, you need to be able to use your jiu-jitsu against someone that is bigger and stronger than you. So you might find females that are bigger and stronger than you, but not in the same way that a big man would be, filled with testosterone.
Yeah.
So that the women's class should be a gateway for you to slowly enter into the normal classes.
I've actually had other females come up to me and ask me, how do you feel about your husband rolling with all these, with women at the academy? I just said, you just watch that one time and you will never ask me that question again. He is just trying not to die. That's all he cares about.
And that's another thing too. I feel like the women come after you, like, compared to guys. Now, there are some guys that like to roll really hard. That's okay. But the women are feisty. Like, they will come after you. Like, it's different.
It is, yeah. It is also nice too. That's one of the small little like, things that happens is if you are on the outside of jiu-jitsu and you start, and you could be a male or female. This happens both ways. You could be a guy who comes in and starts training, and he's like, I love this. I want my wife to start doing this. This isn't for me. I don't want you to do this. I also don't want you rolling with the women. I don't feel comfortable with you rolling with women. So the man comes up to me, the husband, and says, yeah, my wife really doesn't roll with girls. No problem. You don't have to. Our academy's big enough. You never have to do that. And if they ever ask, you can say no. But when it ends up happening after too long, something comes by. The wife comes by to check out the academy because we're doing a social event, or she ends up stopping by to drop something off, and she sees a class, or we talk her into doing a women's class, and she does a women's class. Then you flash forward a year, 6 months, 2 years, whatever it is, and that woman's rolling with all the dudes, right? Because she was completely unaware that it was like, oh, there's nothing to what I was worried about. There's nothing there. I was worried about nothing. It's not like that at all. That's the furthest thing from my mind. And meanwhile, her husband now is probably rolling with the girls and he's not jealous. He's not worried about any of the other guys. He'll sometimes ask. We just had this the other night. We had a married couple on the mat, and he comes up to one of the other guys and goes, hey, will you roll with my wife? Will you go roll with her? Because she obviously, the guy was the same size as his wife, and he wants to get good training. So that's always really a funny dichotomy of things when you're like, oh, I'm really worried about somehow this is going to be weird, and then suddenly you flash forward and you're like, oh, never mind. It was there was never even in the realm of possibility. So that's always just really funny to me when that happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And I totally get it. I mean, yeah. And I get that about the females being feisty too, because we, gotta have something to prove. I'm smaller than you, so I need to go full throttle here.
Go.
We have to use everything we have.
100%.
100%. That's great, guys, because all of you, what you were saying is about the stimulation, the exposure therapy, but also the culture in your gym. And I mean, I know the core people that have been with you for so long, and they're all, that energy matches, and it's very welcoming and just very open. And something I picked up that you said, I think, John, it was you, about being more assertive too. Learning that, saying no. If someone asks you, do you want to roll? No, not right now. I don't want to roll today with you or whatever.
Yeah.
That was like when we put our kids in jiu-jitsu, a huge deal. First of all, that it was a quiet sport. There's no yelling and screaming.
Yes.
And then that they had to really learn being assertive about what they felt comfortable with.
Yes, 100%. And we implemented this rule. It's been a rule for a while. I have to repeat it every once in a while, but men are not allowed to ask women to roll. And the reason that we put it like that is because we want two things to happen. We want the girls to assert themselves and go ask. We find that is one of the things that's lacking, right? Because we'll have somebody who's really quiet. It could be, a young teenager. It could be an older woman. It doesn't matter. And I'll be like, hey, you need to ask people to roll. And be like, I know, I'm scared, or I don't know. I don't know if they want to roll with me, but we need to change. Well, I want you to change that. I also want it to be, if a man makes a mistake, one of our new students makes a mistake, doesn't know the rule, or for whatever reason forgets or whatever, or just has a slip of the mind, is like, hey, do you want to roll? If you don't feel comfortable, because if you're 135 pounds or 145 pounds, And a guy who's 250 pounds asks you to roll, and he's not really at the point where he knows how to move his body, or he isn't like as stable on the mat as he should be. He could just make a mistake and slip in some sweat and sort of fall on you. And your frame will not be able to support 250 pounds, at least not at that junction. So the chances of risk of injury are much higher. So instead of being like, well, I don't want to hurt his feelings, so I said yes, and now I hurt my rib, or I hurt my arm because he fell on me or whatever. It's like, no, I need you to first be comfortable saying no in every situation, and then I need you to be comfortable asking. And then you get to the point where all those things are tracking really well. And then I even say to our students all the time, I'll line them up on the wall and be like, hey, if Lyanne and I asked you to roll, can you say no? And a couple people will be like, no, we have to roll with you. I'll be like, no, you don't have to roll with me. Mm-hmm. If you're going to puke, I don't want to roll with you. And you better be honest and don't roll. I don't want you to puke on me. If you are injured, just tell me you're injured. Hey, I just hurt myself. Whatever. I hurt my shoulder and I'm just going to watch right now. Good. Say no to me. Let me know. There may be a reason why, as an instructor, I ask why. I might say, okay, why? Because if you tell me I'm just tired, well, I might be like, well, that's tough because you don't always get to pick when you're don't want to roll or whatever. So as an instructor, I might encourage you to push past that and be like, no, that's not a good excuse. But if you're like, no. And if for some reason you say to me, I don't feel comfortable rolling with you, then, man, I might have to look at what I'm doing as an instructor. Am I rolling too hard with you? Or is there something else I need to know? Like if I have a girl and she has some sort of sensitivity to rolling with men in general, then I may make a point to be on the watch for anybody asking her or making her feel uncomfortable until she gets to that point we need to get to. And having Lyanne keep an eye on her as well. So just all those things I want to make sure we reinforce all the time and make sure that everybody again feels safe. And it could be guys or girls.
Yeah, it sounds like jiu-jitsu is a really good sport for, again, out of your head, into your body. Sure. But I also have to say that like what you said, I think the culture of the gym is huge and of the academy. And that's why I recommend you guys for everybody, especially for people that are a little bit social anxiety going on or they feel overwhelmed by the idea. Because I think I don't want to say wrong gym, air quotes, right? But if you walk into a different culture that might not be as welcoming for you, you think that that's the norm and that's jiu-jitsu is bad for you or whatever. So I highly appreciate what you guys are doing. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for being on the show. Again, technical difficulties and being patient. And this was fantastic. I'm going to link your website into the show notes so people can find you, even if they are just traveling through Central Florida. It's definitely worth to pop in and get to know you. And or booking a massage with Lyanne. That's also really great.
Also true.
All right, y'all.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you enjoyed. You can give it a thumbs up. You can give it a review. You can share it with somebody you think might resonate with this. Have a great day. See you next time.